What is up, humans? In this video, I talked to a chatter about semantics, and I think it's important for an atheist to understand, the importance of semantics, but also how to defend yourself against, being accused of playing semantics or being a pedant, because you're going to frustrate your interlocutor about definitions and word meanings and stuff like that. And so they will accuse you of playing semantics. But keep in mind, the atheist is making a distinction between epistemic content and semantic content. They get conflated because in order to represent epistemic content, you have to draw upon your semantic references, the words that you know and their meanings. But you have to keep in mind that when it comes to epistemic content, what directs the meaning, what provides foundation or coherence for meaning, would be the objects themselves that we're attempting to make referent with our references. And so in order to defend yourself as an atheist from this sort of pedantry accusation, you'll have to articulate, your defense of why you're not accepting people's definitions as you're objecting to them, and why you're also accepting definitions as you're not objecting to them. Or do you not know you're like hot micing? Do you not know how to use Discord? Taizan? Can you prove a God thing? Taizan? Bro, you can unmute to speak, but like hot micing and like micing up when you're not even.
Sorry, one second.
Yeah, it's Lambda. Sorry, my ancient language is pretty bad.
I don't know how to take the approach today, to be honest. I think the proof's in the bread and butter. So,
like on the plate?
Right, like you talk about yeast and flour?
Like it could be yeast, it could be cornstarch, it could be fabric, it could be silk,
So you're
all
saying
of that's the
that's
bread
God?
and the butter. Or what does like analytical idealism say? Do you know anything about that?
I'm not a nerd, so no, I would never know anything about that. You could tell me about
It's
it,
like-
but my brain will likely.
So trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. The philosophy.
But I was just
Taizan,
wondering, the bread and butter, though, that you're referring to, is that God or is that not God?
What's an example of something that could be like
Well,
Actually,
like let me ask you it this way. Like a footprint in the mud, right? Like you could go on a muddy, rainy day, you can go outside and put your foot in the mud, pull your foot out, and you'll have a footprint, right?
Mm.
That footprint is not you. That's not you. It's evidence that you were there, but the footprint's not you. No amount of the footprint is going to add up to you, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So
That's the whole argument, actually.
right,
So,
I'm asking for you, not the footprint. So you gave me footprints, right?
Mm.
Bread and butter, that's footprint.
Yeah, no. Do you think that's possible?
What do you mean? It's your idea, is it? You tell me.
No,
Can you prove it?
But you see, we're doing the same thing. I'm just saying, like, do you think that's possible? Like, am I not allowed to ask you that question back?
Is what?
I know that's
possible?
what I know the context of what you're doing, right? But I'm like,
for me to prove are you asking? Is it possible for me to prove the existence of a God thing?
No, like, do you believe it's possible to even do that?
To prove the existence of a God thing, it's trivial, yeah.
Right. So you don't believe it? Yeah, no. So. Yeah.
Well, it just depends on what one means by God. The context here is like
deconstructing.
Like, how many gods have you heard about? You've heard about a lot of gods, right?
Copious amounts.
Right. So, have you ever heard of like the sun in the sky being God?
Yeah, you can take it back to that. Like, just like really simple understanding of what
exists.
To a degree, right? But...
No, to the same degree anything with existence does. Anything with ontology is doing what the sun's doing. You're doing it. You're not doing anything different than the sun.
Is that why you say God thing?
Because I don't care about the concepts. I care about the thing. The thing is what is the concept is based on, right? You don't have a concept if there's no thing. We're asking about a thing. If we're just asking about a concept, then yeah, pure semantic content will do. Absolutely. If I just say, hey, make up an idea, Absolutely. You could draw upon any of the semantic references you have in your brain and come up with any idea you want to. But if we're talking about a thing out there in reality, then yeah, we need that thing. And then when we have the thing, we'll just draw from our semantic references to describe the thing. But the meaning that we come up with of our semantic references here, they have no meaning in absent the context of the thing itself, because the thing is what's giving the credence to our word selection, right? Our word
absolutely,
selection.
Yeah. I think you kind of nailed it though. To be fair, when you kind of said the footprint in the sand kind of thing, like there's probably loads of other conversations you can have, but
But see, the thing is
that really
when
is
you're
nail on the head.
offering the bread and butter, the reason I put it that way is I'm not denying that there's a bread and butter. I'm just denying your conceptualization of the bread and butter. Reality is the bread and butter. Reality is real. Regardless of whether you're right or wrong, reality is real. Regardless of whether I'm right or wrong, reality is real. It's an independent object we're talking about. The only way that we'll ever come to conclusions about it is a shared interrelated experience. You'll point at it and say it's blue and say, is that blue? And I'll say, yeah or no. And a better way to do it is just go, hey, do you see a thing? And I go, yeah, I see a thing. And you go, what color's the thing? And I say, it's purple. And you're like, yeah, no, it's blue. And I'm like, no, it's purple, bro. And you're like, no, it's blue. Trust me. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm colorblind and I see purple. And then you're going to be like, well, yeah, you're colorblind. That's why you're seeing purple, but it's blue.
Yeah, so
right?
It would still be like an objective thing, and then you can find out why there's a difference between the subjective experiences, right?
Yeah, we can't do that
right?
absent the observation. Absent the observation, every statement you make about it's going to be a non sequitur. Every statement. So when we say it's blue, that is a non sequitur, thus it's not true. But then what happens when we say it's not blue? Well, that's also a non sequitur, and it's not true. So it's not true that God's blue or X is blue, and it's also not blue at the same exact time. So that's a contradiction. It's the inversion of a contradiction. It's just the other side.
Well, the compatibilism there is just perspective, I guess.
It's not compatible.
And context.
No, I'm not.
Like, because it's because it's in contradiction, right? They're both true and false at the same time, right? So
no, they're both false at the same time.
Well,
so things being false propositionally at the same time is a contradiction because it's binary. A thing is either blue or not.
But the context is where you get an answer to that question. Because my brain just started like having a fuzzle or something, you know?
Well, no, you would observation would get you that. Observation's where you start with the proposition, it's blue. You don't start with the proposition, it's blue, and then go look. You've got your operation backward.
Well, you know what blue is, and then you call it blue.
All right, let me give you an analogy. Are you okay with thought experiments?
Of course.
So I have a box. It's 3 feet cubed, and it weighs 3 pounds, no matter what. Any object can fit in the lid. Anything. You could put a pea or all of reality will fit in the box. Once it's sealed, completely impenetrable to all forms of detection. Now,
well done. Sorry, that wasn't sarcastic, by the way.
Before the conversation started, I put an object in the box. So there is an object, a specific object in the box. What's in the box? Now, before you answer the question, know this. I grant full semantic access. You are free to pull from 100% of the words in your lexicon to describe it.
What, the thing that you said you put in the box prior to the conversation?
Yeah.
If I said no, is that weird?
If you said what?
If I just said no.
No what?
Like no to describing the object in the box using all of my language to say.
Well, why would you say no?
Don't think it's possible.
So you're saying that
you have a banana in the box.
So you're saying that even though you have full semantic access to being able to describe whatever's in the box.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that you have a wide variety of semantic references that you could draw upon?
Absolutely, but it's just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't compare.
Do you feel that I personally have put any barriers on any of the access points to any of those semantic references?
No, because you clarified.
Oh. Right. Now, the question being, what's in the box? Your refusal to answer it is rational because you're saying there's no way for you to do that, even though you have all the ability. Now, all I got to do here. All right, let me ask you this. You're familiar with the word? Let's just clarify, make sure that we're on the right track. You know the word flat and how to use it, right?
The word flat?
Flat, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In I notice you're like what, English or British, so flat might be a house for you, right?
Oh, a flat, as in like an apartment. Yeah, flat.
It could
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah.
It could be. That's one of your semantic references.
Okay, health. Wow, you got me there.
One of my, both of our semantic references is shape, flat,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And what about tail?
Depending on the context.
But you kind of you get that one. You
Yeah,
all
no,
the
I understand. Yeah, yeah.
semantics.
It's the context which. Yeah, yeah.
And then large,
Right.
rodent
Right.
of the genus castor. What about that? That one might not be in there. Castor, the genus castor. See, that might not have much sense to you. What's a genus castor? So we'll skip that part. Having large incisors with, just stop me when I get to a word of semantics that you didn't already have. Large,
I think I got the point that he was trying to make there, like in terms of
our
like
ability,
language and
right, our ability to describe what's in the box is behind the barrier of experience. All I needed to do is reveal to you in the box, and you got rid of all the unnecessary semantic references. All of them.
I think I don't know why I kept saying context and perspective, but the context and perspective to that is subjective anyway. So
Wait, what do you mean it's subjective?
like the perspective of, so you said it like whatever's in the box, I'd like the experience to know what's in the box, and I couldn't describe something, I like the
Yeah,
experience.
but that's not
so,
subjective, right? Because look, we're standing across from the box.
No, but if you went in there and I didn't.
Yeah, but that's what I was about to modify that for this part of the
Yeah,
concept.
yeah.
Let's say we were just taking a walk and we found this box. Both of us would have full epistemic access or full semantic access to all of our word choices. We're locked down on semantics. We're good. But both of us will have the same exact problem at describing whatever's in the box. Now, the moment we flip that box over, both of our brains will land on the object. We'll have a shared interrelated experience. So that when I look at it, I'll say, do you see something? And you'll be able to describe it without me providing you any semantic references. And I'll be able to do the same for you. You won't need to say anything. I could be the one that looks in the box and be like, yeah, it's got a flat tail. What do you think? And you'd be like, yeah, it's got a flat tail. Holy shit. And then I'll be like, you go. And you'd be like, whoa, it's got sharp incisors. And I'd be like, yep. That's the shared interrelated experience and how we affirm what we're perceiving. Right? Because maybe we suck. Maybe I'm colorblind and I think it's a green animal in the box. And you're like, nah, it's brown. And you'd know I'm colorblind. So I'd just defer to you. I'd be like, well, I'm colorblind. You're not. So it's brown. Right? He said it's brown. I'm deferring to your expertise there. But I only defer to your expertise because I understand that my vision's flawed. But I don't have a flaw in perception of flatness. Neither do you. Right? So absent this experience, absent you and I flipping over the lid and not being able to experience what's in the box, it doesn't matter how many words we know. It absolutely does not matter. And we don't need any of the words. Because we could look in the box and be like, what's that thing? And we'll be like, I have no fucking clue. I have literally no words to describe it. And then we'll just be like, all right, we're going to call the tail flat. Right? We could just do that. And then when we're like, well, what do you mean by flat? And I'm like, yeah, and I do this with my hand. I'm like, yeah, you see how it's flat? Like, and you're like, oh, okay. We could develop that in real time. So the idea here is not getting confused with semantic meaning versus epistemic content. Like content about the meaning, right? Like what are the words you're drawing upon? When it's semantic content, the words is your lexicon.
Absolutely. Because the proof would be in the bread and butter, right?
When it's epistemic content, the words are irrelevant. You don't need the words. 0 words required for epistemic content. Now, it's super helpful. Don't get me wrong. Words are super, super fucking helpful. They're not required. We can make the words as we need them to describe the meaning of the thing in the box. But the thing in the box is where we're deriving the meaning.
So the bread and butter in the correct sense would be the experience of what that thing is rather than
the bread and butter is the beaver, and the experience is just our ability to look in the box. So we're looking outside the box right now. You're in your box, I'm in my box. I'm looking out into the world, and we're having a shared interrelated experience of a second box, right? There's this other box with a beaver in it, and we're talking about that from our own vantage. But I'm locked in my box, you're locked in your box. we could communicate in and out of our boxes, right? We could ask what each other sees, and that's what helps us understand things. That we learn more together than we do individually.
Well, so re-understanding like the basics.
Yeah, this is
like
an
where you should be.
epistemic model. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just a
looking at the
principle that
foundation
absent the experience, absent that experience, then you don't have an epistemic bridge. You have nothing to provide meaning to your epistemology of the thing's ontology. The ontology of the beaver in the box, absent the box being open, everything you're saying epistemically about it is null. You're really just confused by providing semantic content to the problem. But the problem, that's a problem itself. You should never confuse semantic content with epistemic content. And if you lack epistemic content, then that's your position. Your position should be that I lack epistemic content. You haven't actually provided anything to me. You've provided only semantic content. You've talked about the birds and the bees. Because you're just describing what's outside the box right now, where I'm asking you what's in the box. And you're saying, hey, do you see that tree over there outside the box? I'm like, yeah, I see that fucking tree. You see the ground the box is sitting on? Yeah, I see the box the ground is sitting on. I'm asking you what's in the box because you said you knew what was in the box. But then we can both see that the box is inaccessible. You can't see in the box. I can't see in the box. You've admitted you can't see in the box. But you keep wanting to talk about the thing in the box. So
no, I think it's more along saying that you can make a bit of an ignorant claim to saying that something in the box does exist. To say what that is in and of itself, no, like I wouldn't say that.
But you know that that's a non sequitur.
I wouldn't say that.
But from where you stand, you don't need to touch the box to know that the statement, whatever's in the box, is it's a non sequitur. It doesn't logically follow. Like if you say it's a beaver, even though there's a beaver in the box, like the meta conversation, we know it's a beaver in the box. If we're in the scenario where we haven't fucked with the box,
it's like saying is there an inside to the box anyway?
I'm just saying that the statement there's a beaver in the box is a non sequitur. Even though in a meta world, we know it's a beaver in the box. It's still a non sequitur to us in the scenario because we lack epistemic access. So it's going to be a non sequitur.
Yeah, so you've labeled that quite clearly in regards to like epistemic and then like semantic. So I think in some way, I understand what you're saying. I don't know if it's going to give you any like it's clearly no benefit or value or something, but I think that's mostly what we have though. Is it's kind of the semantics in terms of that.
Where does semantics come from?
Like where does semantics come from? It comes from trying to add order to add some order to something.
Well, it comes from us.
The underlying objective things are.
Well, I'm just saying it comes from us and our endeavor to understand both ourselves, each other, and then reality.
Yeah, it's a reflection. I don't know. When I mention that, I know it's quite idealism. It's meant to say that everything that exists is a reflection of a conscious system or something, and it's just the stable observation of the intelligent system behind that's made a decision or whatever. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to say there. To be fair, I do agree with you. So.
Well, I mean, you would just have to test what you agree with on simple like propositions, right? You'd have to go inside your own brain now and root around there, because it's my argument that this semantic information, this semantic content, comes from what I call an inculcative pathway of knowledge, meaning you've just been gaslit, right? You've been gaslit your whole life from childhood. Your parents did it to you. Their parents did it to them. Their parents did it to them. It's cultural telephone, right? Everything we think we know about God comes from an inculcative pathway of Chinese whispers, right?
Yeah, like this. It's like you say you have my philosophy, but you say it a bit more ordered, which is interesting. Yeah.
Well, I'm preaching Igtheism right now.
And I wouldn't even say philosophy in that sense. It's kind of just like an observation. But yeah.
Well, it's a linguistic philosophy called Igtheism.
Say atheism.
IG.
It's called Igtheism.
Yeah, IG. It's so one way to like think about it is when you're dealing with atheism and theism and the orbiting philosophies, the ontology that everybody's talking about in those conversations is God itself, this thing. right? The discussion is about whether it does exist or it doesn't exist. So it's this alleged thing with ontology. So unknown object X is the proposition. Unknown object X exists is what the theists are saying, and unknown object X doesn't exist is what the atheists are saying. And so the ontological reference there is this entity God. Whereas in Igtheism, the ontology that is being addressed is not God. The ontology is humans, their behaviors, and their proclivity to believe things, and how they linguistically represent those beliefs. So Igtheism is a linguistic philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not dealing with God's ontology. That's always prime. Like, I accept whatever my interlocutor tells me God is. Whatever you want to tell me God is, that's what I'll use as the definition for the conversation, because I personally don't have a definition for God's ontology. Yeah,
because you're going to have to work with someone else's definition to see if there's a conversation to be had in the first place.
Right. My definition for God is about human behavior. It's not about God's ontology. It's about monkey ontology. So it's a meaningless, incoherent sound people use to express their unwillingness to do a valid investigation about a natural phenomenon. That's what God means to me. It's a sound people make. It's like if you poke them and they go, ah, same thing. It's just they go God, right? It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's equivalent to the thing, right? What do you mean by And it's like, oh, now something touched me and went up my back. Oh, okay. So when they say God, you're basically saying, well, what do you mean by God? And then they give you some descriptor, and then now you may or may not understand them. But God is just a vacuous sound we make. It's not a category of things, right? Like if you think God is a category,
actually, goes to the Christian point there. Jesus Christ, you say God's a sound? No,
it's a sound people make. Like
yeah, I was tying on the Yahweh thing. It's supposed to be like a breathing. It's a sound.
Well, no, Yahweh is not a sound people make. Yahweh is a definition of a person. It's codified in the Bible. So you can learn about Yahweh beyond what some monkey tells you. Now, it is the case that monkeys wrote the book, right? But we have individual monkeys today that believe in Jesus, but it ain't the guy in the book.
Say primates, I think, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Well, all primates are monkeys.
Okay.
Have you heard of the law of monophyly?
No, I haven't actually. The thing is, what we use is like Igtheism, yada yada yada. I think I did I used to make graphs on this sort of stuff. Like I called it subjective and objective Jimmy, pretty much. And it was I think it just walks down the Igtheism kind of point of view on people's perspective, their reflection of going through like an objective and subjective point of view of life when it comes to God and what it means for them and yada yada yada. Because you see a lot of people are quite like just in general, you think when people speak about God or these things, they speak about it in very different. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I think I agree with the point that you're making about the fundamental part of it before you get into the semantics. Like I think that's just the key part of every conversation. And a lot of the time when you say like any religion or a lot of religions or whatever someone's definition of God is, what's the word? It's like an objective truth claim to something, or they objectively claim that something through their subjective experience exists. And
well, subjective experience does exist. That's why I view subjectivity as a subset of objectivity. Like all of your opinions and preferences and all that are objective facts of my vantage. You're a monkey out there in space-time with those emotions, right? I could observe you having emotions and beliefs and dispositions. Like all of your preferences are objective facts of my reality because you're an mind-independent thing, right? It's not a mind thinking you up. You're not an idea. You're an actual thing. All of our minds are mind-independent things. See what I'm saying? Just because they are minds doesn't mean they're mind-dependent. Mind-dependent means imagination. So minds are not mind-dependent. They're objective facts of reality. Minds are functions of brains. Just like traveling is an objective fact of our reality that you can get in a car and travel. Well, you can get in your brain and travel. And traveling is the conscious experience. So the equivalent experience is traveling. So it exists as a function of the system.
Yeah, no, the basis of the claims you're mentioning, Taizen, are semantic at best, right?
I don't know.
Wait.
What?
Can you analyze that? Can you think about it for a second?
Wait, so my argument's a semantic at best?
No, I want you to actually apply what Anthony just said, like these past few minutes, against your analytic philosophy that you presented at the get-go.
I'm not going to lie, you threw a spanner in my works there.
Yeah, it sucks, don't it? That's Igtheism, dude. That's why it's called the conversation killer, but it's not. It's the conversation starter. Because now we can actually talk about proper ontology, right? What is a proper ontological referent in a God discussion? It's the behavior of your fellow monkey. It's what they're doing. Their opinions, dispositions that we can observe that exist out there in space-time, all their attitudes towards nonsense sometimes and not nonsense other times, right? It's a cacophony of noise, and you've got to filter it out, right? Because there's a lot of bullshit going on. But, dude, there are morsels in there, right? There are things in there.
So, like, yeah, of course, like that's something that like every individual to experience it in of themselves, right? When you go through life, you're gonna, especially with introspective.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean there are naturalistic pantheists in the group of God believers. There are animists in the group of God believers. There's shamanists in the group of God believers. Not all God believers believe in a monotheistic pedophile, right? Some people just believe Earth itself is God. So all I'm saying is,
I was talking about the reflection on, like, I was saying, like, the reflection on the human behavior on your internal world rather than the external, like, reference of the semantic.
And what is their behavior? Their behavior is
I was going to say something like Carl Jung in the Red Book or something like that, in terms of how he speaks about, like, more of your internal world or something. Because you're saying that, like, the God conversation, more of like the behavior of your fellow monkeys, right?
Yeah.
And I guess my arguments are semantic if you'd call them arguments. Mogi,
I guess. Some of these people are pointing at things that are real. This is why atheism is invalid, because atheism's a proposition that says no gods. There are no gods. That's the proposition. But they know there are gods. That's the problem, is people have asserted things that are gods, and they're real. So atheism is dead on arrival, and it's just because what they're referring to are the gods that abuse them. They're rejecting the gods that abuse them and failing to recognize that there's a bigger world out there with more than just those things as gods. So atheism just lacks the sophistication to deal with the problem as the problem is presented.
Yeah, you just think it's like fundamentally flawed. So it's wrong to think.
It's fundamentally incoherent. So any rejection to a fundamentally incoherent proposition is itself incoherent. You have no idea what you're objecting to, because the people you're objecting to are so disconnected and scattered in concept that you have no idea what a God is. And it's been so many different things. And on top of that,
that's the problem with divine revelation.
If you're a member of a server like this, I guarantee your atheist ass, if I'm speaking to an atheist or if they're listening, your atheist ass has been introduced to gods that exist. You just reject that they're gods on zero basis, zero foundation, that you have any epistemic tie to your knowledge of whether this thing that's being presented as real is or isn't a god. It's just this knee-jerk reaction. It's psychological. Atheists are a psychological disposition towards somebody else's attitudes and beliefs.
Yeah, you fundamentally disagree with the way people approach the concept of God. And if you do, you would flush it out.
It's a false dichotomy. Atheism, theism are not dichotomous at all.
It's a good place to start, though.
No, a good place to start is human behavioral dynamics and development. Inculcation, childhood inculcation. Chinese whispers.
Well, but that's like trying to explain, like, obviously you can understand why human beings do that or why we come to those conclusions, and then we why we do that. That's the better way to put it. But then that wouldn't necessarily
putting the reins in your hand at that point. Once I teach
that's very good. No,
the reins are in your hands. You take that information where you want to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I'm saying is, then I guess you can comment on it when I finish, right? Is that would be understanding human behavior through the lens of, like, the corruption of what's happened to human behavior, right? What would you say before that? Like, before you learn about people being indoctrinated in certain types of things, man. There's not another word. Because you're talking about, you said you have a label for people being indoctrinated from, like, a young age, and the way they formulate information.
Yeah, it's inculcation.
I kind of inculcation. You said.
C-U-L-cation.
Inculcation.
Yeah, it's the process by which a human gets its culture. You're inculcated. So you're born inside of a culture. Like the culture's already been running. It's been going on. It's already warm, you know?
So when you say the God conversation is looking at human, so before that you wouldn't even use the. So what's the placeholder there?
What do you mean? What's the placeholder?
Like it's meaningless for Igtheism. It's like meaningless like debate the concept of God, and then you say if you would speak about God,
it's not meaningless to debate the concept of God. You have to contextualize what God means.
Okay, sorry about that then. So before the inculcation, it's a wild word.
There is for you. There is no before inculcation.
So you think there's nothing ticking around in there before people are subjective to their like environment? Because clearly there is. That's not. It's not actually a question.
I'm talking about from birth, from birth as a neonate. You are beginning the process of inculcation.
Yeah, and then you say you should look at God through the lens of inculcation, which means, you know, if whatever that process is going to be applied, you're going to look at God through that.
Yeah, through the inculcative lens. Yeah, because if we agree that God is entirely semantic, then the only place or origin that it has is in our minds. We develop it as a contextualization of our experience. And I'm saying it is codified by the familial unit, the culture. The culture enforces beliefs and attitudes towards these entities. If you're born in the United States, the chances are you're a Christian. If you're born in India, the chances are you're a Hindi. We've known that for a long fucking time, that region strongly interfaces with your beliefs. Now, it's not the end all be all. There are, you know, people for whatever reasons switch to faith. It doesn't land on some, but that's a good generalization that wherever you're born, you're going to have that culture. Because that's what happens. You're born basically a blank slate, almost, not completely, but you know, you're basically a blank slate. You're we'll say given to parents, right? You come out of a particular vagina and you have particular parents, and those particular parents have particular beliefs, and they immediately start saturating your environment with their beliefs. They've already done it. You were born into an environment they have already saturated with beliefs. You're just born, you're expected to, you know, you're just dropped in it, right? Like Christianity's thousands of years old. So if you're born today, you're born thousands of years after the fact with thousands of years of inculcative history and evolution from one family unit to the next. Now, keep in mind, they all go to churches and stuff, so they have a sort of genetic drift and a gene flow that goes on, but the variations of, well, Jesus means this to me, that's the genetic drift, but the gene flow is, well, I learned from church, right, because church is bringing it back together. And then we have our ideas and expand, and then church is there to reinforce it. It's the dogmatic approach. You're teaching a dogma, and it's not necessarily bad. That's just how we learn. We've structured K through 12 after the inculcative process that nerds have analyzed human growth and development and have broken it up into stages, and each of the K through 12 is a corresponding age group of information taught to a monkey at the appropriate age of psychological development.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing, dude. That was good. Yeah.
And so all I'm saying now, as an extension to all this shit, every question you have about God comes from that inculcative pathway. So you just got, it's not to say that it's wrong. It's just to say that it's not epistemically viable, right? You can't use that information to say, well, if not my inculcative pathway, then how this ontology? That's a category error. Dude, how the ontology is a valid question. But to contextualize how the ontology, absent the thing that has nothing to do with ontology, is like, what are you even asking? How about I just explain the ontology, not tethered to the absence of what you're saying, that you only are saying it because mom told you, right? It's not because you went out there and saw something. It's because great-great-grandpappy saw something in the field and it jiggled weird. And he told his son, and it just passed on to the legend of don't go out to the distant field.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's very, yeah. You're cooking, bro. What can I say?
Well, no, it's just Igtheism, dude.
Yeah, no, but that used to be taboo for a very long time. If I spoke to someone who was maybe born in the 80s or 70s, Actually, not 80s actually, but definitely 50s, 60s, and 70s or something. That would have been like the most blasphemous point of view to ever have.
Well, I am a child of the 80s.
Yeah, man, you were just on the upper curve, man, to escape that little dynamic. But yeah, no, I understand it. You see a lot of people like edge more towards that perspective. Definitely generational wise.
I've been trying to brainwash people into Igtheism for a long time now.
Not really brainwashing, to be fair. It's kind of unbrainwashing. It's like me throwing a hot towel at you and saying, "Wash yourself, mate."
Yeah, but from their perspective, it's brainwashing. You got to remember the people I talk to.
Yeah, but that's the problem. That's the big problem. I think that's the problem with a load of things, pretty much. So it's I don't know. Like, from my perspective, not to be like ooky spooky, but I think that's like a very big issue that we don't acknowledge as people in general. That's just my opinion.
Well, because it makes it visceral. People that I talk to have kids, and they start realizing that they're gaslighting their children.
That one right there is dark, you know. You know, people start realizing that. Sorry, I can't. Let me not get into like personal stuff. But people start to realize, like, you know, it just depends on what your perspective and how you think about things. God forbid you be 10 years into indoctrinating your kids, and then you're like, ew, that's not what I got. But deconstructs what their comfort is anyway. So.
Would it be like important to somewhat indoctrinate your kids so they could fit into said culture, though? Like in a way,
well,
like it's kind of a
that's
good
the
thing.
natural process. Yeah, that's why I say it's
Okay.
not always bad. We were
Yeah.
talking
No,
about
I'm
this
just
the other
agreeing
day.
with you, yeah.
Like if a Muslim, you know, think about it from like, say you grew up in like a very Islamically controlled country, right, where they will literally chop your fucking head off. You should be inculcating your child into Islam, and you should make that the best little Muslim until you can get out of there. The best thing you can do is teach them to acclimate. Yeah.
See that's like the net positive for it, right? Well, obviously that means there's loads of people who are going to fall through the cracks in that kind of dynamic there, and then there's going to be the negatives of that kind of situation. You know.
Well, that's what happens. It's reality. Look at the Mormon Church in the United States. We have
Dark.
our example.
It's dark.
Do you think there's like any like actual like religion believers that have true faith that weren't just indoctrined and feared of being like an outcast to their family and culture?
Not exactly, because it's so saturated, right? Even if it's not, because people do that with me all the time. They'll be like, well, my parents were atheists. When I say inculcated and I talk about the familial unit, I'm talking about those closest to you that had access to you, not just your parents, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're born in a society like the United States, there's nothing you can do. Everywhere you fucking go, it's on your money. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah.
Even if
it's
you're
the
in a
societal
highly
brainwash,
atheistic country, right? If you're born in like Sweden or some shit, or Norway, as a Norwegian, they might have a sense of cultural pride in their lack of religiosity. So even when they're not religious, they would be like, look at how us secular people run a good ass country, right? They would use it as secular pride. So they're still defining themselves by the theists that surround them. So no, I think this problem's going to be here for a while because it's just part of the natural course of human experience that we ask questions, and now we're saturated by people who think they have answers, and they love to share it.
Well, then that's where like science enters, you know, pretty much. That's where like
one of the greatest philosophies ever invented.
That's why I mentioned analytical idealism at the beginning, by the way, because it's more of like a scientific approach to if there was a context for God. To a degree.
No, see, you got to detether yourself from that kind of language because there are gods that exist and they have been proven as such.
No, I was saying it'd be like a scientific example of like something with a higher order than what we operate off in like a little 3D environment or something.
See, a scientific approach would emphasize the gods that exist because those are the ones that fall within its paradigm of observation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it would just make that the higher objective truth, and all the other ones that do exist are also just lesser truths. If you want to put it on a scale or something, like everything that does exist is You know, like it's not like one thing is an objective truth. Anything that does exist has a truth to it because it exists.
No, that's
simply
incoherent,
because.
dude. You're getting into PSR bullshit right there.
Yeah, but that's what I don't know what PSR is. My bad.
Principle of sufficient reason. Reality doesn't function on reason. We apply reason in our brains to understand how reality works. Again, operation backwards.
Guess I've got some work to do, mate.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the first thing I tell people that start thinking they understand atheism is turn it on yourself. Cannibalize your own fucking brain. Because you have full, unfettered access to everything you think is true. Start applying the methodology and trace each thing you got going on in your brain back to its origin point. If you can't substantiate it, get the fuck rid of it. Hit delete. You don't need it. It's some shit. It's like you learning how to wipe your ass or something. Like, you don't need that information anymore. You locked that in before you even knew you existed. So it's just muscle memory.
I don't. What did you mean? What is just to help me out here? You said something about like reason is the fundamental something. What?
So the PSR talks about how reason is a primary function or operation of the universe. That everything has to be explained. There needs to be reason to it, which is just an appeal to telos. No, you don't have to. Nothing needs to be explained. We are brains that evolved to figure shit out. So that's what we're doing. We're just making up explanations. The truth is not out there. Truth is a relationship between a proposition and what's out there.
Yeah, no, I don't think everything has to be explained. I think things can be explained, or there are explanations for things within.
Right.
So like we make our own truths, or is what that kind of boils down to?
No, truth is a relationship.
No.
So truth is made of two things. Two distinct things make a truth, which is a statement, which is what I'm doing right now, making words and sounds and shit, and a state of affairs. So if I say it's hot, it is hot. That is a statement. It's hot. Well, I'm looking at 98 degrees Fahrenheit on my fucking computer, right? So there is a state of affairs. So outside these walls, it is sweltering, right? So when I say it's hot, in reference to the state of affairs, anybody here would be like, yeah, it's hot, right? The statement is true. It reflects accurately the state of affairs. Absent the state of affairs, there's no truth, because truth can't exist just in the statement. It needs to be compared to what the statement is referencing. And if it's accurate, if it properly represents the state of affairs, it's considered to be true, and its, inverse is considered to be false.
So if I just said that's just relative, is that it's like relative, like truth. It's true relative to you.
To the claim in the state of affairs, I guess.
Yeah, right.
That. So it's like, you could say temporally relative. Like right now, I'm talking on the microphone, but that statement's not going to be true in about 1 second.
Yeah, no, you're cooking, bro. Elite ball knowledge. What can I say? Yeah. So that doesn't just end up meaning that you get to just make truths and make them be true because they have to be like relative to something that's like consistent.
Well, I mean, you're being a little hyperbolic with that. You can't make truths, because we do. That's what we do. We make truths by utterances being propositional, and we deducing that the proposition is true. We made that up in our monkey brains. It's all in monkey. Everything I've been saying is equivalent to ooh, ooh, ah, ah. You just understand all the different oohs and ahs that I'm using. That's why I'm saying semantic representation is never going to be good enough to explain reality, because our semantics are symbols. They don't even mean the thing we're talking about. They're just symbols. Word is a symbol for the definition and meaning of word. Word doesn't mean word, though. Right? That's what we have dictionaries for, so that we can know the meaning of the word.
I need to do some psychedelics and just listen to this for like at least 2 hours. Okay. Tough job. Have you done psychedelics before? Is that like a taboo question?
Are you asking me if I've done psychedelics? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I was asking in general, but then I thought I disconnected or something.
I don't think psychedelics help, though, dude. Psychedelics make you stupid, not smart. So this one is definitely a complicating topic, because you're dealing with semantics and word meanings and representation, syntax use, and just the whole gambit of linguistics is involved, and so it can seem convoluted. I think what helps people understand is sort of a thought experiment or an analogy that I have, and I like to imagine two rooms adjacent to one another, in doorways that just lead linear through the rooms. And the first room would be the room of the ontology, and there's just a table there. And the idea would be that in order to get into the room of epistemology, that you would have to present something on the table. We would have to be able to identify that you brought something. Now, we in the ontology room, we wouldn't know what the hell we're looking at. It's just something that you put on a table. And so that would gain access to the epistemology room. You wouldn't be allowed into the realm of the epistemology without properly, presenting the ontology. And so the pedantry, the semantics all comes about because of an Igtheist staunch refusal to lower their standards to the standards an atheist employs, where they'll lower their standards and say, you don't have to worry about placing anything on the table. Just go on into the room of the epistemology, and we'll talk in there. And I say what happened here is that purely semantic content is being used in place of a valid epistemic prior. And that epistemic prior in this type of conversation is the ontological status of the thing. That first, the thing is manifest. Second, we experience the thing. And third, we draw upon our semantic content to represent our epistemics. So, absent access to the ontology, you can't form a valid epistemic bridge, and thus any endeavor to build a epistemic prior would just be futile. Now, the atheist, like I said, has lowered their standards to accept pure semantic content. And when they are convinced that semantic content can fill that void, and they're giving that information, they feel justified in giving that, and then atheists push back. And so they feel that we're just playing a semantic game, and it's just that you have your order of operation wrong. You feel that because you can semantically represent a notion, that has something to do with epistemically representing a notion. And the conflation is warranted if you're not careful, because like I said, we draw upon semantic content to linguistically represent epistemic understanding. So don't get your operation backwards.